Join me in this compelling podcast with Barry Mehdizadeh, filmed live at the Bedrock streaming stand at IBC 2023. I'll explore the intriguing world of SVOD OTT platforms in the Middle East region. Delve into the captivating narrative of this industry leader who's ascended to the pinnacle of success and unraveled the key ingredients to become the undisputed #1 SVOD OTT proposition in the dynamic Middle East landscape. I'll embark on a journey through the evolving streaming industry where SVOD services have become the go-to choice for millions of viewers seeking premium entertainment at their fingertips. Our expert guest will share his experiences and strategies for building a formidable SVOD OTT proposition in this diverse and fast-paced market. Moreover, we uncover the significant shift in focus towards Saudi Arabia, a burgeoning market with immense potential. Our guest sheds light on the unique challenges and opportunities presented in this dynamic market and how it has become a focal point for the growth and expansion of SVOD services in the Middle East region. Whether you're an industry professional, an avid streaming enthusiast, or simply curious about the landscape of OTT services in the Middle East region, this podcast offers you an insight into the efforts required to attain supremacy in the competitive world of SVOD OTT. Barry Mehdizadeh, it's a pleasure to be sitting here in the Bedrock stand doing this OTT Red Spotlight podcast with you. You're the first of a series of individuals, subject matter experts and thought leaders that we're speaking to about some fascinating topics over the course of IBC 2023. Thanks so much for joining us, Barry.
Thank you for having me, Chris. Thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure. I have to say to you, Barry, at this point that I've lived in Dubai for nearly a couple of years. And when I moved to Dubai and started moving in the circles that matter, yours was one of the first names that people said, oh, you need to know Barry. You need to speak to Barry.
I appreciate that.
So you've definitely got reputational gravity in the region.
I hope so, in a good way, definitely.
Well, what we're going to be talking about today, Barry, is going to be dominating MENA's SVOD OTT landscape, the journey to the top and the shift towards Saudi Arabia. You have got an absolute wealth of knowledge when it comes to this region, the technology. I'd love to start off with a whistle-stop tour of your career, Barry. It would be fantastic not only for me to hear you bring the story of your career to life, but for those who are listening and watching to hear that as well.
So, based on my accent that you hear, I'm coming from Germany, right? So I have been working in Munich for 7-8 years for Premiere, Sky Germany. Moved to Dubai in 2005, I think, 2006. So I have been long here. Planned for 2 years. It did not work out 2 years. I'm still here.
Yeah.
I'm still in Dubai.
Everybody says that, right? That's the story with everyone.
That's the first, right? So it has its good and bad. So I'm still here. Well, I have been with several pay TV companies, right? So Showtime, Orbit, then it moved to BOSN. Have been setting up their Media City head end and the platform with the team, and did the same for Orbit that time when the Orbit moved from Italia, Rome into Bahrain office. To make it quick, then I moved into a telco. So I was asked, it was the time of, where IPTV, first generation, building up experts around this setup. And I have been asked if I want to join the Saudi Telecom company, STC. And I landed moving from, between Dubai and Saudi and Riyadh and working another 6-7 years for Saudi Telecom. Moving their IPTV and launching that. And then, of course, 2 different OTT platforms. With the latest is the Jawi TV or STC TV that was with us. And how should I say? Moved from one telco to another telco. So the next one was another Ooredoo, which we relaunched their Android TV product, the whole streaming media entertainment product. And to make it fast, I landed today with Mawarid Media and Communications Group, which is the shareholders of OSN, as you might know, and they have their own plans for Saudi, as you know that the Saudi is, of course, in a good momentum and driving in the entertainment spectrum.
Yeah. Maro, it looks like an extremely interesting organization. Actually, you mentioned OSN as part of the complexion of the group.
Yes.
Give us a little bit more flavour and depth of what your role entails within that business, because you're leading product management there, right?
Yes. So I have been working with Marvarit in the past 2 years in the technology side, and also moved into the chief product side, where all the media entertainment aspects are, from a application build, from a hardware devices. We are building, it's not just a home proposition. So we are going, from a connectivity side too. So, car connectivity, media entertainment inside the car. We are discussing aviation, right? And what we are looking, if I can say it in this podcast, is we are looking across connectivity and access to entertainment where you are, right? This is OTT started always with anytime, anywhere, but today we are looking into making it happen, right? So where you are with one source of your app, you're going across your home, mobile, you go to aviation, you go back home, you drive, you're always connected, and you have the Orbit, in this case, the Orbit application with you, or the product.
That fascinates me. We're going to get into some
I hope
fascinating
I did not lost
conversation.
you.
Not at all. One of the reasons it fascinates me, probably 100 yards from where we're sitting here on the Bedrock stand at IBC 2023, you've got the Xperi stand. And Xperi have got a BMW there where they've pioneered the technology so that everything you've just mentioned goes
This
into
is
the
where
in-car
it is going.
entertainment.
Absolutely, and you see the news, and I'm following it up. The whole entertainment and OTT and streaming factor is not just in the home base, right?
Absolutely.
It's not a home game. It's just a connectivity where you are, whenever you are, and this is real.
I was speaking to those guys about that actually, and they said to me that it's not only about where it's consumed, it's about the massive infrastructure that it takes to deliver that content to the end user.
That's the complexity.
Let's talk about MENA a little bit, Barry. Let's capitalise on the time that I've got with you and your experience here. What's your take on the evolution of streaming's prevalence in MENA? Regionally, in each different part of the world, it's got a certain accent into how things have blossomed. COVID seems to have been a catalyst in many instances, and then the kind of post-COVID slump, especially on a number of balance sheets for OTT providers. How would you summarise what's happened in the Middle East and North Africa in terms of the prevalence of OTT?
You pointed very correctly. So, of course, COVID time was a high point of usage, and due to COVID and being at home. What happens is after that, I think the MENA has adopted that, and it's still trying to, from a commercial side, to manage this of consumer behavior and retention, where you see in more in Western country, it was a big drop after that, right? So that's visible, and that's where we are in media entertainment sector talking about. What's happening is, I think in the MENA region is, and I have to focus this right now and highlight, is the whole local production, right? That's the point. The local content, right? The Arabic culture and the Arabic heritage that should be covered, right, in the media entertainment side, and that's where it is pushed, especially in this region. We have many of them in Netflixes and Disney's and Primes. That's given, and that's not to be dropped or pushed away. But how we want to move and survive or stay in the market is to find in this market a specific product, service that the consumer is looking for, and that's localization. And I think that's after the COVID time, people are focusing. We have several players that in this market.
Yeah, it resonates across so many different levels. I mean, it entirely makes sense. If each different region has got its own accent in terms of what's driving the prevalence, storytelling, as everybody knows, is a big part of the culture in the Middle East. And actually, if you look at organisations like Rise Studios, where Amanda Turnbull's the chief executive, The whole
Excellent.
reason is to,
Yes.
put some wind in the sails of local creators, give them access to the capital and finance that they need, maybe extend that script to screen time that has been so prohibitive because of lack of access to funds before, and make quality content that's commensurate with the quality of the
That
stories
was a
that come from
wonderful
that
step.
region.
It is a wonderful step they have done.
Yeah, absolutely. Amanda's done an amazing job there. Interestingly, if you look at what the demographic is within the part of the world where you and I both live, there's some pretty arresting statistics. If you look at Saudi Arabia, and I think the statistic is that 70% of the population is under the age of 30,
Correct.
that creates a massively
Yes.
different dynamic to the
Yes.
resistance that exists in other economies or other parts of the world, resistance to technology. It's the opposite in Saudi Arabia, right? And you see that across the Middle East, particularly in the UAE.
Absolutely. So the how should I say the win that we have here is the youth that we can access and address in the media entertainment side. As you said correctly, I think we are about 70 something percent youth below 30 or
Yeah.
below 25 till from that age.
It's a
below.
crazy demographic, an amazing statistic.
We have 99% of mobile access, right? That's for sure in Saudi Arabia. And how to access that and how to motivate, to use your consumption or your content. That's everybody's working right now on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about content creation, because actually, this isn't just specific to OTT. I think that if you look at the demographic that we've just spoken about, the way that people within that demographic are what I would call digital nomads. I'm even thinking of my own children. The way that that demographic can create content that is virtually professional grade production. I mean, if I look at my 13-year-old son and how he uses CapCut on his phone to make really well produced videos of him doing mountain bikes, there's this groundswell of content coming from the region. So there's not only the necessity. In fact, there isn't even the necessity for funding. Actually, there's a whole load of content there that's absolutely phenomenal.
I fully agree, and I think especially for Saudi and this region in Middle East, it's a key. So we have a Gen Z environment where people are always on the mobile, where they self-produce content, right? Where you see your content through the social media, and how to attach that. All this content that is already given by the users with your own content, local content that you produce on a commercial way, and match this together and bring attraction, right? So you bring really interactivity between you as operator and the end user. It's not yet broken. I mean, nobody has. Reached that. I think we are on the move to that. Everybody tries to win this game.
Let me ask you a question, Barry, because this is one of my personal opinions. I actually think that the moment that we're at, when it comes to where we are in the evolution of OTT, and it's in everybody's home now, right? OTT's there.
Yeah,
it's one of the things that I love about it. It's a digital frontier that touches everyone's lives in different ways. But one of the questions that fascinates me most is, where is it going next? And I actually think when you think of gamification, when you think of augmented reality, when you think of those things in terms of betting, and then sports is highly relevant when it comes to the gravity that Saudi's creating.
Number one.
Absolutely. In your position as a thought leader in the region and a product thought leader, what do you think about what the next chapter potentially looks like, and how all of these things start to converge or even set a magnetic north in a similar direction?
You pointed correctly. Sports and what's happening beyond our domain where I am working. As you see what's happening in Saudi Arabia with bringing the key players and stars and celebrities into the market. That gives you a direction where we are going, right? And how to benefit from that. So we have this content of sports and these facilities that are there, and how to engage with not only following what the user wants, but predicting, right? So that's a point where with sports, with all the content that is produced by user or professionally, to put this as a prediction what the user would like to see or would consume.
Yeah.
That's where I see, and that's where the intelligence of an AI comes in game for me as a product side, right? It's not after the game; it's before the game.
Yeah.
And that's the difficulty, right? I'm not saying I have the solution right now.
I was going to ask you, actually, is there anything that you can reveal about what you're thinking or what you're working on in terms of AI?
We are working on it, but let's keep this for our next round.
Okay, all right, we'll select that out. We'll get a date in the diary. One of the things that people talk about, and I often think that the people that focus on this, Barry, are people that don't really understand the region very much. But a lot of people are drawn towards talking about prohibitive regulatory environments. I think actually that there's a strong spirit of collaboration and progression in the way that governments and the institutions that exist across the Middle East are actually very, very supportive of new technologies and want to utilize experience in the region, be that locals or people who have migrated to that region, to make sure that they make accelerated advances. What's your experience?
Valid point. Absolutely. We highlighted we have in the Middle East, and especially in Saudi, a young generation, proportionally, of course, to 70%, and these young people have access to media, and this needs to be regulated, and this needs to be framed correctly. What's happening is the institutions that we are working with, we are in these discussions with them. We're getting feedbacks or forms or on how we see it and how we want to be part of this regulation. And that's an open-minded, way of how we place ourselves in the whole media entertainment industry inside the country. We are playing with them. I mean, we are we are addressing this and partnering with the government.
Yeah.
Right? We're highlighting what are the best industry and best approach, and both sides are very supportive.
Yeah, absolutely. I see a lot of facilitation. I think that's
Correct.
the right word. A lot of facilitation
Yes.
happening
Yeah.
by governmental and official bodies and royal families, etc., who are keen to see the region move forward. One of the things that I must ask you, Barry, is with the ambition and momentum and traction, with everything that we've been speaking about, one of the dependencies is technical infrastructure, right? There needs to be enough capacity as one thing in the region. And then we're talking about data centers, we're talking about the whole topology of the region. What's your thought on whether or not, what are the limitations when it comes to the ambition that exists on the consumer side and the ability of the organizations that are in the Middle East and North Africa to keep up with demand when it comes to the investment that's required in infrastructure?
To put it in one sentence, I hope demand is high and we need people to come and build it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
There are, of course, two different telcos existing data centers and the classic data centers, right, for telco network sites. And what I would look and what we are seeing that we need and the market needs, not only from my side and from my corporate side, is more open data center commercial way of accessing them, right? I really ask people who are in this spectrum are working to look into this and how we can move together with system integrators, with telcos, building more data centers and opening it up. It's needed for everyone.
This is one of the things that fascinates me about the sector that we work in, Barry. It's a highly collaborative sector when it comes to cross-organizational interfaces. You need the infrastructure, you need the data centers, you need the bedrock streaming, you need the platform, even the hardware. One of the other things that interests me is the way that the TV manufacturers are also into this bundling game in a big way now, especially when it comes to advertising too. I hear a lot about that.
Absolutely. On the TV spectrum, on the TV devices, there's such a shift from I don't want to name the companies, but from Korean to Chinese.
Yeah.
And it's happening. The numbers
sure.
are high. If you want to, you can of course look into the numbers that the sales that are going up with the CTVs, specific from the China market, and they're doing well.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely. It's this whole constellation, I think, Barry. You know, this whole constellation in terms of all of the organisations, all the different propositions, all the different hardware, the software, and then the consumer side of things. It's exactly what I mean about the digital revolution and this particular frontier within the revolution that we call OTT. But you know, there's I think there's 12,
so many
12 others.
so many components inside. And just to finalize on or my last sentence on the hardware. I'm a still believer of devices, right? So that's from a product side. I think yes, applications and services through applications is it's there and it's going to be there, and that's it. That's not a question. But for operators and like us and others, and you see that still access to the end users, to the homes, to the mobility, I mean, to the cars and so on, you still need some device.
Absolutely.
You need some device to provide the connectivity, to provide the access, to get the user, know the user's behavior, and provide your service through that. So I'm still believing whatever that device is, right? I mean, classically, if you say it's a set-top box or a HDMI dongle or whatever. That's where I'm coming from. That's what I think. There is still the need, and there will be.
Yeah. Barry, question that fascinates me. One of the things that has fascinated me for the last 2 years. What's your perspective on data capture? The ability to then make intelligence from data, because they're two separate things, right? Data is data, but you need to make intelligence from that. And most importantly, where are we on our evolution as a sector to actually fulfill the potential of having the intelligence that the data offers us? This falls, in my mind, firmly into your area in terms of product. Like, we've got so much access to data now because everything's IP based, and that opens a whole new world. What's your posture on it, generally and specifically for MENA region?
Chris, so data is the essence of the business, right? I mean, without data and without analyzing data and without knowing what data you need to look.
Yeah.
If you don't know, you can have, I don't know, terabytes and you don't understand
Absolutely.
what's happening. So the intelligence is really what is the data giving you, how you to analyze it, and what you want to do with it, right? I mean, it's one is analyzing, and are you in the position to change that, right, and move that forward. Now, if that change means additional funding, additional changes, additional resources, and that's where the gaps comes between having the data, understanding, and making the next move.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's where I see it. For this region, of course, I think it's not specific. That the demographics is at the end. That's where your data needs to match. But at the end, using the data is the same like if you're in the Western or in a Middle East country.
Yeah, absolutely. Final question for you, Barry. If you had to pin the tail on a few of the landmark things that are going to happen over the next 3 to 5 years in the region, if you had to look in the crystal ball and try and tell us what you think those things are going to be, what things can you imagine are going to be the main things to watch out for over the next few years in the Middle East and North Africa?
I think content-wise, that's one thing. Technology-wise, we are just technology and product-wise, we're looking in the market. We're following what's I mean, as leaders, you're following what's happening in the other countries, in the Western countries. What I'm looking or what I'm foreseeing is the content play, right? We have highlighted the sports. It's a big changer here in the Middle East, especially bringing not only the celebrities and the sports stars, also bringing the events, and changing the way of how sports has been, or how the overall Middle East and sports has been set up. That's one point. The other point is we're seeing so many different streaming platforms and OTTs popping up in there and here. I don't know. I don't know if that can be staying for many years like this. You know, there's a cost involved, right?
Yeah.
There is, of course, premium content versus archive content that is there.
Yeah.
And at the end, the user will make a call. I am myself, if I see it myself from an end user, with all these different apps and accesses, I'm tired of that one.
Yeah.
So what I see, what I would look for is, okay, we discuss all this one app solution with all the contents and all, you know, different areas. This is technically possible. Of course, there's a discussions from commercial sides and content rights and so on and so forth. Another point which we did not highlight, and I need to address, is also the piracy access that is here in Middle East.
Yeah.
That is giving you, of course, and operators good headache.
Yeah, and it's something that comes up regularly, right? I mean, we're both in that region, and I see conversations within WhatsApp groups that we're both in regularly around, you know, digital rights management. Why is that, Barry? Why is there such a different texture when it comes to the Middle East and piracy? It seems as though there's different piracy feeds, you know, and as soon as you stop one, another one pops up.
Yeah, you have easy access, and that's first thing. Secondly, it is okay to have piracy content. Yeah, it is okay for people that we know that they are in the region to use it. It's fine. You know, that's the behavior.
That's the culture.
That's a culture. It's cheaper, right?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. It's cheaper. I have the access. I can see it. User experience side, I would question that, but if you demand something specific and you want to see it, you go for it, right? If it's a free to piracy, or you just pay, I don't know, percentage less than legal content, and we cannot solve it, but that's there. This whole rights management and I think that's an aspect of the different content windows, right, that we have, and where the content is, and we highlighted before. You know, I have to go to that one app to watch it now in that month, and then I have to go out and then watch the different asset and different title in a different content app and so forth. And
It's crazy.
That's where you landed to say, okay, I'm going maybe to pirated site to get it finished.
Absolutely. Do you mind if I test something with you, Barry? Because I've got a philosophy on something that you mentioned earlier. I heard a statistic the other day that there are now 3,000 different OTT channels that you can access. Each one's got its own different models, whatever. But the thing that really interests me is not all of those, like you said, can exist, especially at the top. And I think that over the next few years, we're going to see more convergence, more M&A activity. That has to exist. But at the bottom of the pyramid, I actually think it's going to become more accessible and cheaper for maybe the demographics that we were speaking about to get access to their own OTT platform and start selling it almost as a uber niche to, you know, like if I think again about my son and mountain bikes, he could easily get a Uscreen channel himself, $99, and just start it himself. You know, I think we're going to see that polarization in terms of the market.
Absolutely, this is happening, and we highlighted this also. This whole user-generated content that comes with all the contents that is existing. The content flow that we have then there will be going into more accessible and more, let's say, from a monetizing aspect, a better operational matter. We are talking about, you know, all this fast, right? We're talking about all the advertisement, and this comes in, and if you bring user-generated content, you bring channels, free-to-air channels as a advertisement support all together. You produce a catalog of content that is user generated or playlisted.
Yeah.
Altogether, that's something that you're changing. You're changing the whole aspect of what classic OTT premium content consumption would be.
Barry, I've loved
I hope
that.
I did not bore you with my
Not one bit, not for a second, Barry. Look, I hope that you've enjoyed being our first guest on the OTT Red and Bedrock Streaming podcast. It's been
Appreciate
fascinating talking to you, and it's a pleasure to meet you as well, Barry. Thank you so much for your
Thank you.
time, and enjoy IBC 2023.
Thank you for having me, Chris. I appreciate that. It was very good to be the first. I'm done my job. I hope it was good. I hope the listeners enjoy it. And there's a follow-up conversation. Happy to hear.
Absolutely. And if people do want to reach out and contact you, you're happy for them to do so via
Yes,
LinkedIn.
of course we can do that. Yes. Because of course there are points that needs to be, rediscussed or revalidated, or are people having different, and that's the beauty, to discuss this out.
Everyone's so accessible nowadays. Barry,
Thank you,
it's been my
Chris.
pleasure. Thank you.